Hey, what's up, YouTube world? It is your girl here, the Venusian Bull, and I am back with another video. So what we're going to be doing in this series of videos is we're going to be discussing the planets in the 8th house. Yes, I know a lot of people have been waiting for this house. Anything that has to do with the 8th house, Scorpio, Plutonian things, people are always curious. People are always interested. They always want to see, the mystique of this energy. So we're going to be discussing planets in the 8th house, and I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently, as I'm going to have an introductory video to get through with all of like the kind of housekeeping details and everything that the 8th house contains, because I'm going to go very much into depth, pun intended, with the 8th house as it pertains to the planets and things like that. And I didn't want to have to say the same things over and over at the beginning of the video like I usually do, because it's a lot of information and a lot of knowledge that I'm going to be dropping on y'all. So yeah, there will be a description in the comment box of the actual timestamp of when I get to that planet in as it pertains to the 8th house. So don't worry, if you've seen 3 of these, you can skip through them if need be and go just straight to, sun in the 8th, Mars in the 8th, moon in the 8th, whatever. Okay. All right. So let's discuss the 8th house a little bit. Okay. So I also want to kind of put a trigger warning on these videos, because the 8th house deals with a lot of kind of taboo topics, the things that we don't really, want to discuss, the things that are buried beneath the surface and things like that, such as sex, such as death, anything that's taboo, and that could be deemed taboo or beneath the surface. That could even mean astrology or tarot or numerology or any type of occult like studies and mediumship, voodoo, hoodoo, all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to kind of like worshiping like ancestors and the dead and things like that. The 8th house has to deal with death, so we may be talking about demons and spirits and all of that type of stuff. So again, trigger warning. And this is the trauma house. A lot of the times I always say that Scorpio is the trauma queen, while Leo is the drama queen. So 8th house energy, there's always going to be some type of trauma that needs to be kind of overcome, but you're not going to escape drama. You're not going to escape trauma having 8th house energy. It's kind of inevitable that you will experience certain things. So I went through the basics: sex, death, anything that has to deal with trauma, transformation, regeneration. This is a very transformative placement. You're always changing, always transforming, and it's usually in major ways. This also has to deal with other people's money, as the 2nd house deals with earned income and money that you earn. The 8th house deals with other people's money. So this isn't necessarily money that you work for. This is money that you get from an inheritance, or like spousal support, or like child support, or like a life insurance policy, or something along those lines. And the 8th house also represents debt that you owe. So not only other people's money, but money that you owe to other people. So creditors, like bankruptcy, all of that stuff that we hate, really, right? I also like to think of the 8th house. The 8th house is kind of about turning trash into treasure. It's very much a purging thing. It's about, getting rid of garbage, and things like that, because Scorpio, which rules the 8th house, actually represents, for lack of a better word, excrement. You know what I'm saying? It represents, the waste out of your body. So it could be like literal waste or like figurative waste that you're kind of doing away with. And that kind of goes along with the transformative aspect of the 8th house. And as a reminder to keep in mind that you need to take account the sign that's on the 8th house cusp, as well as the aspects that the planet is making with any other planets in your chart, because this may modify the energy that you are experiencing in the 8th house. So make sure that you take heed of that. Sometimes I state this periodically in other videos, but I want to get this in the first video, the intro video, so that everybody knows that the characteristics that I state for the planet, that I'm speaking about may vary based off of other variables in your chart. So I want to make that very clear, especially when it comes to, the eighth house, because it's so transformative and it's so, intense, it's so in depth that it can mean so many different things. And speaking of intensity and depth, it has to deal with that. It has to deal with intimate bonds, close bonds. It's the next step up from the seventh house, which is like more like commitment and marriage. And the eighth house is that intimate bond that it's not a you and I, it's a we thing when it gets to the eighth house. So it's that as well. And it's, deep, it's about deep connections, and it's about researching, it's about investigating to get down to the bottom and the depths and, the oceans of things. This is a water house. So you have to remember this is an emotional house. People forget that Scorpio is a water sign sometimes, I think, and emotional, because their exterior can be so, you know what I'm saying? It could be very resting bitch face, but remember that this energy needs to feel deeply, like within the depths of their soul. They need to feel right down into their gut. So they need to feel deeply. This house may be prone to experiencing a lot of pain as well, pain and trauma. And usually, in a lot of instances, that's something that people who have this energy, they actually like. So yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to get into the planets in the eighth house. So stay tuned. All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? So in this video, we are going to be discussing Neptune in the eighth house. Okay. So this is going to be a very deep and spiritual placement right here. So having Neptune in the eighth is similar to having Neptune in Scorpio, or having in Neptune in Scorpio, that's a very generational placement. So you would need to know the house. But you can look to Pisces being on the eighth house cusp as a similarity or something to draw from. So it's going to be similar to that. All right. So to just kind of like touch base rather on the spirituality aspect of Neptune in the eighth house. The eighth house is already, a very spiritual house. It is a water house. So you have a water energy inside of a water house. So this person is going to be someone who's very, very deep, like even, more deep than your average Scorpio or eighth house person, especially as it pertains to, spirituality and faith. Not so much in the religious construct of it, but more in terms of like, and I say this in all of the videos, but I have to reiterate, and even more prominent with this placement, the metaphysical practices, the healing practices, astrology, tarot, and especially healing practices, whether you're working with runes or hoodoo, voodoo, candle magic. This is very much saging the house, saging, the energy on a regular. You have to be really, really careful of your energy that you surround yourself by with this placement. This placement is also very sensitive to demons. That's why, and spirits, you know what I'm saying? That's why it would probably be in this placement's best interest to clear the air, to clear the energy. So you don't only have to watch the energy of actual human beings, but you have to be aware of the things that you can't see, because Neptune is very much about the intangibles, you know what I'm saying? And, believing in that, because it's all about, having faith and even believing in what you can't see. So that's something that a Neptune in the eighth house would have to worry about more so than any other placement in this house, given, sensitive energy is a theme of this house, but especially with Neptune in the eighth house, you really have to be careful with the energy that you surround yourself with. And if you have to be careful with spirits and energy that you can't even see, you got to be careful with actual human beings. I don't blame these people for being kind of like recluse or, extremely introverted into themselves, because their energy is so sensitive. And it's just very easy for someone with this placement to kind of be absorbed and sucked in, to someone's scheme or someone's game or someone's toxicity or even someone's happiness, or someone's anger. Like, you're just easily engrossed into people's emotions. On the flip side, um, this is this may be the most like psychic energy in the eighth house, because Neptune is very psychic in and of itself. Neptune rules Pisces. So you're going to be able to be very perceptive in telling and being able to notice what energies you should deal with and what energies you should stay away from. The problem is that you're a little bit more, I don't want to say open, because you are reserved, but you're a little bit more tolerant, a little bit more forgiving of certain people, because Neptune energy is very compassionate, and it's in this water house. So you're going to be very compassionate to people's traumas, to people's feelings, very compassionate in the realm of where people need to heal. And you kind of like jump on those opportunities to kind of, assist people with being able to heal. You relish in that, you love that, to the point where these people could potentially, take advantage of you, or manipulate you because you're kind of letting down your guard and you're being too nice. Make sure not to do that. Utilize your intuition. This placement needs to utilize their intuition more so than any other placement, because they're so vulnerable and susceptible to people, taking advantage of them. Unfortunately, this is energy that can be, possessed, you know what I'm saying? And, it kind of gives me like exorcist vibes, you know what I mean? Like, this is like paranormal activity, like this is that, placement. So you really need to be careful of who, you're letting in. If you sense any type of demonic energy with people, just let them go. Let them go. You're better off. It doesn't matter. I don't care if they was trying to give you $1 million. Neptune energy, y'all not about the money like that anyway. It's not about that. It could be the difference in you living and dying. And the eighth house is the house of death. So like Neptune in the eighth house could be susceptible to energies and spirits that can actually kill them. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's people, but they're like, disguised as, well, they're disguised as people, as human beings, but they're actually these demons, these spirits, and we've seen this kind of portrayed in a lot of movies, and, it's very sensationalized, but I believe that this kind of thing is true. I do believe that demons and spirits can be attached to human bodies, and Neptune in the eighth can definitely be something to experience that. On the flip side, you could potentially get a demon or spirit attached to you, and you can be the crazy. Like, you can be the person who's killing people or who's harming people or who's hurting people. So, you gotta be careful of that too. That's why it's so important to conserve your energy, to be very discerning with who you let into your realm, because this is the eighth house. This is very dark energy, very, it's the taboo land, it's the energy that you really need to protect, because it's where secrets live, it's where you need to be in control. And it's very difficult to be in control if it's so easy for people to absorb you, or for you to absorb other people or other beings. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the type of person who you could get bit by a dog, you know what I'm saying? And you could be possessed, or you could get like rabies, like think Cujo, okay? But like worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, Cujo was crazy, okay? That movie still scares me to this day. But yeah, Neptune in the eighth house, this is a, I don't want to say that this is a bad placement to have because it's very psychic, it's very perceptive, it's very intuitive, and very spiritual, you know what I'm saying? And these can be very much healing type of people just by nature, just by not even trying. These are the type of people that can like just look at you and they can like see your whole life story. You know what I'm saying? Or they could be able to see when you're gonna die. I think I mentioned this in one of my other eighth house videos. I talked about Eve's Bayou, the movie, and I talked about how the character Eve, who was only 10 years old, she was discovering that she had visions, that she could see the future, but she could only see the future of someone dying. So that could be very Neptune in the eighth house. And you may get that feeling, especially when dealing with people who are close to you, those intimate bonds. And you may get these, these like funny feelings, these gut feelings. And you know that this is going to be the end of days for this person. And you want to warn them and you want to tell them, depending on kind of what's going on in your spirit and your soul, will let you know if you should let them know or if you shouldn't, because this may sound kind of fucked up, but sometimes it may be best that you don't let them know. Sometimes it's like you guys can see so much of the future and so much, trauma without even knowing someone, so imagine all of the things that you can see when you do know someone, like when you do know that person. Like, it's like, it's a lot of gifts in there, but it can be very, very overwhelming. Like, this energy can be very overwhelming, and instinctually you want to help these people. Like, you really, really do. But you, like I said before, you have to be careful with that energy. And you definitely have to be careful with that energy when it comes to sex. Neptune, probably more than any other placement in the eighth house. You're just susceptible to people taking advantage of you, possibly, like molestation, rape, just being in sexual situations that could be, uncomfortable and kind of have damning, lasting effects on your like psyche and things like that. It doesn't mean that someone with this placement can't enjoy sex per se, but like I said before, this is a very sensitive energy. And this is a very sensitive house, an emotional house. So when you're talking about people, bringing their bodies together, and fluids together, Neptune is it's very fluid and everything like that. It's as deep as the ocean, this sex in and of itself can draw in a lot of demonic energy, or it could draw in a lot of, like positive, spirits and things like that. But because you have to be selective, it's probably more likely that you may get some of that negative energy. So you could be possessed through sex, most definitely, or you can possess someone else through sex. You definitely have the ability to like control people through sex, or like through orgasm, or to like manifest things through sex. Like, you definitely have that ability. Like Neptune in this placement, I would say, definitely has that ability. But you have to be careful of using your power, because it can be very disruptive, and it can cause a lot of pain on you and the other party. Either way it goes. But definitely when it's you who kind of has the upper hand, you'll realize that and you'll know that, and you'll be like, okay, my power is coming out. Like, I need to get that back in there. Another anecdote, you know that I love anecdotes from movies and TV. The show Lovecraft Country. Okay, there's an episode that focuses on are they in no they're Korea. Okay, so they're in Korea, and I forget what the title. It's been a while since I watched the show, but I forget what she called herself. But basically, she kind of wasn't human. Like, she was part human, but not a little bit. But basically, when she had sex with men, whenever they would orgasm, when they would climax, her oh my God, I wish I could. Oh my God, I wish I could remember the word. If I remember it, I'll put it in the video as a little caption or whatever. But it was like this snake, or this being with all of these like legs and arms, would come out of her body and then would basically kill the man. That's very eighth house. That's very Neptune and even Pluto in the eighth house. But it's just that it's like that energy that you can't control. Like, that's why it feels so Neptunian to me. Because to me, Neptune energy a lot of the time is power that you have, but sometimes it's uncontrollable because it's so boundless. Like, there's no boundaries on the amount of, power that you can have. And particularly with Neptune in the eighth house, how much power you can have through sex. You know what I'm saying? So it's wild, like, it's crazy. But definitely, if I can remember what that creature was that was coming out of her body when she made these men climax, I will definitely put that in there. But if you've seen Lovecraft Country, this is one of like a random episode that literally, I'm not saying it doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the show, but it's like, it's kind of an odd episode in terms of the rest of the show, but it all kind of like coincides. It's very mystical. It's very eighth house. Like, the whole show is very eighth house, and spirits and demons. It also has to deal with racism because it's set in the 50s and all of that type of stuff. So it's very throwback. It's very nostalgic, but like mystical and magical. It's like, it's a great combination for people with like eighth house energy or water energy or anything like that. But enough about that. As an aside to Neptune in the eighth house, I forgot to mention that because Neptune represents video and images, that they're very much into porn, very much into filming porn, very much into being in porn, and stuff like that. So I may have to put this little portion of this video in there because it's a very important component to Neptune in the eighth house. Neptune is videos and eighth house is porn. So I just want to clarify that. It's very specific. Oh, and Neptune in the eighth house can definitely be like, because Neptune can constitute addiction. You could definitely be addicted to sex, and you can be addicted to masturbation. So yeah. So that's kind of like the gist of the energy in the eighth house. Now, in terms of like kind of the money aspect, like in terms of other people's money, it's more like you obviously would be really good at being like a healer of some sort, and that's how you obtain money and things like that. Like, you could potentially, because you can predict like people's deaths sometimes, if you're really, really dark-sided, if you're that dark-sided energy, you'd be like, let me make sure I'm on this person's life insurance policy because I know that they're gonna die in 2 years. Let me not put these things in the ether. Let me pull that back. I know I already recorded it, but I'm trying to keep it real. I have the disclaimer at the beginning of the video: triggered, demon, spirit, sex, like, it is what it is. So Neptune in the eighth house, just be very cognizant of your power and use it to empower, not to devour. Okay? Because yes, and also be sure not to get devoured on your own. Like, be cognizant not to exert too much of your power and stuff, and like know your boundaries, but also don't let anybody take advantage of you. Like, don't let anybody, try to manipulate you or take you for granted. Because I see like Neptune in the eighth house sometimes can be so extreme on both sides. And eighth house is the house of extremes. You could be too powerful, or you can be very meek and very much too scared, too afraid, fearful of exerting that power. So you need to kind of have a happy medium, and I think that it may take some time for one to realize that with this placement. So just be aware of how you're coming off and using your energy, and be very discerning about who you give your energy to. Like, some people you just don't even need to look at. Like, it's like that deep. Like, some people you just may not even need to look at. You know what I'm saying? And this is the house of intimate bonds. So you're going to crave that. You're going to want that. But some people are just like, nah, I need to not even look at you. I need to not even talk to you. Like, I can't even breathe in the same air as you, or else I will get this like demonic energy attached to me. Like, sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes it be like that. You know, you can be paranoid. It could present a lot of paranoia, because you could be turning away energy that you think is bad but isn't. That's why you have to use your intuition, because some people just might think that you're crazy. You know what I'm saying? But use your intuition, please. Your first instinct is probably the right one. Don't take your time to try to fill it out. Intuition, intuition, intuition. That's the key word for Neptune in the 8th. Use it and don't abuse it. Okay? All right. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. And also thank you guys for getting me to over 1,000 subscribers. Yay! So the community tab has been unlocked. I'm able to monetize my videos now, so I'm definitely going to be getting them out a lot sooner for you guys, trying to get that content rolling out for y'all. So thank you guys all for being so engaging in the comments and letting me know what you think, and continue to do that with this video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if this resonated with you, if you happen to have this placement of Neptune in the 8th house, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.